get ready. Let's call the regular meeting of the Ketchikan City Council order. Please call the roll.
Severson.
Here.
Coos.
Here.
Zingy. Here. Gage. Here. Isom. Here. Kiefer. And Flora.
Here. Now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That brings us down to our first business is a public hearing on Resolution 18-2695, amending the 2018 General Government Operating Capital Budget to provide a supplemental appropriation for the Library Department in an amount of $1,500. Anybody here to speak to that? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. That brings us to communications. We have a couple things set on the table. That brings us to persons to be heard. Kathleen, start us off.
I thought I was second. My name is Kathleen Light. I am the director of the Arts Council. I live at 410 Cedar Lower, and I apologize for not being here for the past few months and giving you a little arts report. We've been crazy busy. So just an update, our next Main Street Gallery exhibit is going to be featuring Donald Varnell. This is Donald Varnell's first solo exhibit. So he's doing it in his hometown. He's very, very proud to be able to show his work here for the first time. This exhibit is the culmination of his fellowship and residency with the Joan Mitchell Foundation. It's a very prestigious award that he won 2 years ago. He got to go to New Orleans and work in a conglomerate of artists that won the same fellowship from around the country and spent some time in New Orleans working. And this exhibit is what happened. And so we're really excited to show this. Please, please, please come and look at this exhibit if you get a chance. Our opening reception is this Friday from 5 to 7 at the Main Street Gallery. There will be delicious food and, of course, glorious art. It will be up all through the month of April. So you can come all month long, and I really invite you to see this work. It's really beautiful and completely different than anything you've seen from Donnie before. I wanted to let you know we're already doing Blueberry at the Arts Council. We've received about 22 submissions for the Blueberry Arts Festival logo, and we will get an anonymous panel of community members together to select the 2018 Blueberry logo, so that'll come out soon, what was selected. We've already started putting together businesses and activities for the celebration of the Sea Art Walk. That's going to be May 5th, the first Friday of May every year, and so we're getting ready for that. And so that's the quick update. I also wanted to say thank you to the council for the many, many years of granting support that the city of Ketchikan has given to the Ketchikan Area Arts and Humanities Council. The granting support allows us to leverage grants from the borough, obviously, but also from the state and from other grantors across the country. So it's extremely important, these grants that the council gives, that the city gives to the nonprofits for operating support to help us continue to thrive. So I will be here when you get down to 7A7 if you have any questions then, or I can answer them now.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evelyn.
Evelyn Erbely of 870 Summit Terrace. Mr. Mayor and council members, I think Chief Joe would speak first.
Good evening, Council. Joe White, Chief of Police. I just want to take a couple minutes to advocate again for the warming shelter. The services they provided this last year for our community, our citizens, and for my department were outstanding. Some of the issues that I tried to look up some hard numbers and stats for you, and I just couldn't navigate my system well enough to do that. But I can tell you, I've talked to multiple officers. The warming center was overly receptive to us, taking in individuals all time of the night. They would come meet us at the door, let us in. Certain individuals were to an extent where they had to go to the hospital first to get screened. And normally in the past, those people would have to stay at the hospital all night, taking up resources there. With the warming shelter open, they were able to call us. We could take them away from the hospital into the warming shelter to free up those resources. So it helped not only the hospital, not only my staff, but our community. The warming shelter closed the end of March, and as you can see, we're having adverse weather, and it's going to be a tough month for some of our community members. So I would just urge you to really reconsider your funding level for the warming shelter. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And I would like to have Sam Stout come.
Good evening, council members, audience members. My name is Sam Stout. I'm currently staying at the Path temporary home downtown on Park Avenue because I am about shade short of being homeless myself. I've never utilized the warming shelter, but I utilized the day center facilities extensively in my search for gainful employment and a place to live. I was lured here to Ketchikan with the promise of easy work and reasonably affordable housing, of which there really isn't any. There are so many of us that are struggling from a divorce or loss of a mortgage that are in pretty much dire straits, that do not have a drug and alcohol problem, that do not have mental health issues, and are legitimately trying, but still we cannot get out of the hole that we find ourselves getting ever deeper into. And I just want to give First City Homeless Services the highest accolades possible, because they have made it possible for me to network and utilize resources that otherwise I would not have any access to. They have literally saved me from horrible weather and certain sickness and staying out in the freezing cold all day long with no other options. So you guys, I would appreciate it if you would all seriously look deep into your hearts and consider the rising homeless crisis that is here in Ketchikan. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Chief Joe and Sam. In January, the Emergency Services delivered 3 individuals to the Overnight Warming Center, and KPD delivered 2. In February, Emergency Services delivered 3 individuals to the Overnight Warming Center and 12 KPD deliveries. Now, this is 12 nights in the month of February, more than one person on some of those nights. So when I say KPD came 12, it means 12 days out of 28 they came with someone to the Overnight Warming Center. In March, 5 nights, the Emergency Services delivered someone to the Overnight Warming Center, and KPD delivered 4 nights, multiple people to the Overnight Warming Center. You have in front of you the statistics. I'm not going to beleaguer that, but you will be oriented to the first page is the day shelter. So you will see the new men. We've seen 63 new men since January 1, and we have seen 29 women since. So we've seen 122 people already this year at the day shelter, and they have come 2,895 times to receive assistance. You can follow across to see the ethnicity and the age bracket. The largest age bracket would be 41 to 54-year-old, and then the next bracket would be 55 and older. The second page is the Overnight Warming Center. 100 individuals stayed the night at the Overnight Warming Center in the course of those 6 months that we were open. 100 individuals. 74 men, 26 women. 2,270 times. So the Overnight Warming Center gave assistance to 100 individuals in 6 months' time. It would be our request that you fill our grant request to its capacity. We asked for $35,000 for the Overnight Warming Center, and we were granted temporarily, until you decide, $25,000. What I can tell you is that we have a 3-year commitment of rent and utilities from Peace Health Medical Center for the Overnight Warming Center. And we have the promise of the salary for one Overnight Warming Center employee from KIC for next year. We've asked the borough for one Overnight Warming Center employee, and we've asked the city. So we're trying to spread out our ask for employees to cover the service that we're offering to the city and to the borough and to the community. And that service is keeping people alive, keeping people out of the hospital, keeping people out of the jail. It's a critical service that we're offering. And we want to say thank you to the City of Ketchikan for sponsoring this first year of the Overnight Warming Center. We do have 2 women who are certified with Alaska housing data entry for the state of Alaska. And Carrie Collins wrote me the other day, who is the Alaska representative for HUD, with the information that there is no HUD money for emergency sheltering this year. They are only doing renewal grants. So she sends her apology to First City and the City of Ketchikan that HUD is not able to assist us this next season because they don't have the money in Alaska from the federal government. So that was one of the resources that we were looking for, and we can promise you that we will continue to look for resources that will keep the day shelter for men and women like Sam, who are seeking employment but as of yet have not been able to locate, and so therefore would have no place to hang but maybe out with Judy in the plaza. And so having them at the shelter is a little bit more comfortable for them. Do you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any questions for Evelyn? Bob?
So when these employees are on staff, what kind of hours are we looking for a typical employee?
We have 2 day shelter employees. Ginger Harmon works Monday through Friday. She works from 8 to 4:30. Frances Guthrie works every weekend for the last 3 years from 8 till 4:30 Saturday, 8 to 2:30. Overnight Warming Center are 10-hour shifts, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. We have 2 employees on staff each night of the Overnight Warming Center. They are trained first aid, defense, de-escalation, food handler's card, and CPR. So we've invested a few $100s into each employee in our training. And I can tell you, I just heard one of our overnight employees has just received full-time employment. So the 4 employees were hired, all 6 of our employees were hired out of homelessness, unemployment. So the Overnight Warming Center are people who were homeless or unemployed and found employment.
Any other questions?
Yeah, also, do you think it would be worthwhile to collect any information in regards to whether or not they're veterans or not? Because
We do.
You do?
If you look
Did I
at the
miss that?
very right-hand column, January 3 vets, February no vets, March 2 vets for the Overnight Warming Center, January 5 vets for the day shelter, and February 1 vet. No vets in March.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you.
You bet. Next, Mr. Armstrong.
Hi, Matt Armstrong, President of the Board of Governors for First City Players. Just wanted to let you guys know what we've been up to and what we have coming up. We just finished a successful run of Sense and Sensibility at the Saxman Tribal House. We had sold-out shows, good word of mouth. Everyone seemed to really enjoy themselves, and I hope some of you guys are able to see the show as well. We have auditions coming up for the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, 7 p.m. March 16th and 17th at the First City office right down the street. It's our June show. It's a lighthearted, fun musical with I think a 9-person cast. 9-person cast, and it should be a lot of fun. And coming up later this month, we have the Charlotte's Web performance, April 27th, 28th, and 29th at Ketchikan High School. Guest director Amanda Glanzer is working with a cast of 41 adults and children. This is our annual multi-generational play where we bring in, where we have adult actors working with kids, and everybody usually seems to learn a bit from each other. We also have a Pay What You Can performance of that on April 26th. And then our season selection committee is getting ready to meet later this month. This is a group of individuals from around the community. We read a large number of scripts for our upcoming season, and we make recommendations to the Board of Governors for everything from the fall musical to our June shows. We still do stuff like Fish Pirate's Daughter and Divas Devos every year, but the season selection committee is really involved in picking out some of the shows that change up every year. Speaking of Fish Pirate's Daughter, we have auditions for that coming up at the end of May, so I know many of you are familiar with it, but if you'd like to be involved with it, come on down and we'll find a costume for you, give you some lines, and you can have some fun. And also, we have Elizabeth Nelson is working with the students at Fawn Mountain Elementary School, and we will be doing an all-school musical of Willy Wonka Kids on May 24th at K-High, and Elizabeth is basically taking some of her days each week, going down to Fawn Mountain, working with all the kids and helping to put together a pretty cool show for the kids there that will be performing at K-High. So we have a lot coming up, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And our office, again, is right down the street if you want to come down and see what we've been up to and get involved.
Thank you very much, man. Jesse.
Oh, hi.
It is your turn.
Hi, my name is Jessica Pilcher, and I am an adult nurse practitioner and co-owner of Legacy Health Clinic. I reside at 3729 Denali Avenue, and I'm representing the business that I own. I'm here to talk about the Transparent Healthcare Ordinance, and I understand and agree with Transparent Healthcare. Legacy Health Clinic and many other providers in the community are already providing patients with estimates of healthcare costs. The Healthcare Transparency Ordinance that is currently proposed has a great impact on smaller medical clinics, optometrists, dietitians, mental health counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, physical therapists, speech therapists, dentists, and other providers in the community. Here's an example of what the required components of the estimate would entail per the proposed Healthcare Transparency Ordinance. You were given two handouts there. The first one is the required components. The second one is a page out of an ICD-10 book. A CPT code book also is similar to this. And so I have an example of a patient. Let's say I have an established 61-year-old woman who has Blue Cross insurance, and she calls and wants an estimate for a diabetes follow-up. So I would give her an estimate for a CPT code visit of a 99214 with her ICD code of E11.65, which is diabetes. And then let's say I see her and she has a lot of other things going on. Her blood pressure's out of control. She has high cholesterol. She's also having chest pain. And she's also behind on some of her vaccines. So then that visit ends up, being a lot more than what the estimate that was given. And so what your requirements that you are asking is the description of the procedures, which can be quite extensive. You want the billing codes, which I don't know if you guys know what CPT codes and ICD-10 codes are or HCPCS codes are, but it's pretty cumbersome what is being asked and would greatly impact smaller clinics. So I wanted to kind of walk you through what it would take. And today I had one of my employees do this while the phones were ringing. She was scheduling patients, scanning things, and it took her an hour and 5 minutes to do this. So for us to be able to do that, we would have to hire another employee to be able to meet these requirements. And that greatly impacts our clinic, and I think it would also impact other clinics and providers in the community, smaller clinics and providers. And I just wanted to say that I understand the frustrations of the Ketchikan community. And as providers, we also have some frustrations, especially when patients aren't able to get price quotes from certain organizations. And then we're having to refer them outside of Ketchikan. And it's a lot of work for us as well, and frustrating. And so tonight I'm asking the City Council to table the Healthcare Transparency Ordinance. And I would request that the City Council create a Healthcare Transparency Committee that would include community providers so that the goals can be achieved that are currently being sought after. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Jesse? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
That brings us to Tammy.
That was an error. I didn't read it right. Jason.
Oh, Jason.
I was just following him.
No problem.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Jason Harris, 8297 Fairhaven Lane in Ketchikan. I have to say it's very odd being on this side of the table. I don't think I've ever been on this side of the table. So I'm here representing Guardian Flight tonight, and because this kind of came as a quick surprise to myself and the organization. I'm not sure if Guardian falls under this ordinance or not. I kind of read through it very quickly, admittedly. But I would want to say we do work with a lot of providers in the community. Guardian Flight, as an organization, is much in favor of being transparent with costs. We would be much in favor of a committee to bring some organization to some of the frustrations in the community. And I know that medevac companies have been a part of that in the past. And so I would be in support of what Jesse has requested in the aspect of the council table, the ordinance that's at hand tonight. Form a committee that involves the providers in the community and be able to meet the goals that I think this council has set forth. And so representing again the company, we respectfully request that you table this, and I would be happy to serve on that committee if it was so sought. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions for Jason?
I don't know if this might have been more with Jesse, which you was up here, and has anybody been following what the state's doing, because they're going through the same process?
I read the proposed House bill and the Senate bill.
And is it similar to what we're proposing?
One of them is one's proposing healthcare transparency. The other is proposing smaller providers with posting their 25 most used procedures with the cost, and then larger organizations 50 most procedures, or which could be a colonoscopy, a physical exam.
Yeah.
Every procedures fall under that. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. That brings us to Lilette.
I'm Lilette Kistler. I've been hit. I guess everyone gets hit by the charges at Peace Health. I've gone in for a free checkup and come out with a $400 bill because they kept asking me questions and I answered them, And then you get the bill 6 or 7 months later and you don't even remember exactly what happened, and for sure the provider doesn't remember exactly what happened. So when you're asking them why you got billed $400 for something that was supposed to be free, they can't really answer your question at that point because they can't remember what happened. And you can't pay your bill. These days, we hardly anyone has a deductible that's going to cover any of the little stuff. And so you walk out, you would like to get rid of this so that you don't get a bill 7 months from now, so that you can still remember what they were charging you for. So it's a vicious. It never happened like that before. You used to be able to walk out and pay. They used to make you pay when you walked out the door. You know, I would much prefer that. At least I would know what I was getting billed for. So I'm really happy that somebody's trying to do something about this billing. In the same vein, and I think people are, it's more of a complaint, I believe, with Peace Health. I also have another complaint with Peace Health that came up this weekend, and it's something that's been happening in this town for a while. Doctors leave because they're overworked, or they don't like it here, or their spouse doesn't like it here, or something like that. But I don't know if there's anything that you folks can do about maybe having some kind of open dialogue about other things that are going on at the hospital that are causing people to not want to work there. And when we get people that love Ketchikan, there is a small percentage of people in the world that can even live here. And when you got somebody that's good and cares about their patients and is intelligent and has intelligent conversations with their patients or their parents when their patients are too small to talk, it's especially important for the ones that are too small to talk, because the pediatrician has to have a connection with that child, so that you can't just push a child in and out of an appointment, because nothing's going to be accomplished. You can do that with an adult. And I wish they would have pushed me out and said, your time's up, or else we're going to charge you some more. You know, tell me how long I have. I didn't even know how long I had. But so I don't know if you've heard, Dr. Rozier was fired this weekend, dead cold, and I'm thinking, what? They're already shorthanded and they're just fired somebody cold? A lot of issues, two sides of the story. I've been hearing from a lot of people since I put on Facebook that I was shocked out of my gourd. I've heard from a lot of people that are saying, yes, we have to do something. Yes, oh my gosh, yes. Here's what you need to do. Please do this. I can't go on Facebook. You know, they're scared. Dr. Rozier was not scared. And because of that, they let her go. And my great-granddaughter has a heart condition. And Dr. Rozier is her doctor. I don't know her in any other way except for her son's in my music class. But I do know that my granddaughter, who is darn near an expert on doctors these days, for our little, almost 3-year-old kid, she's been helped by the wonderful folks at Children's Hospital in Seattle. She knows a good doctor when she sees them. She's seen a lot of really good doctors, and she rates Dr. Rozier right up there. She spends the time, she helps the parents understand, she helps the kids be comfortable, and now she's gone. So I found out because I was going to lose one of my students. I wasn't happy. But worst of all, it's the town. We're losing some really good doctors. We have been for many years. I know she would like to have an open forum just so that people can hear. I know that people at Peace Health are upset with her because she's a squeaky wheel and they didn't like it. I'm guessing. I don't know the whole story. I don't purport to know the whole story. But she would like to tell her story. And if there's any way that could happen, that we could have some kind of open dialogue to find out really what the issues are. I mean, it's our facility. We paid for that facility to a certain extent. Yes, we got funds, blah, 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 blah. But it's our town. We're stuck here. If we chase away all the good doctors because they don't like the way things are going, and then they get in trouble for complaining. Where are we? Yeah, I found out how good she was when my Facebook blew up. I'm really popular now. I'm not really popular. She is, and that's the point. She's very popular. Very popular. It's like, oh my gosh, no, she's the only one I'll go to. And they've lost her.
Question?
It was my understanding she was let go because she complained about having to work a lot of overtime and a lot of excessive, like it was burning her out.
Overworking. She was only supposed to be working part-time. And that's part of it, and I know for sure. I mean, Donna Smith, Dr. Donna Smith. That's why she finally left. I know everyone loved her as an OB. She was one of those same type of people that focused on the patient and was really careful to make sure they knew what was going on and stuff. She had a connection. And she left finally because she was overworked. They would never, ever get someone to help. You know, she's got a little 4-year-old kid, and she's trying to be a doctor and be a mom and everything. And they shouldn't have to make those choices. For the good ones, there should be some way. And are we in charge of the hospital? No, we are not. You know? But it seems like, since it's our facility in our town, we really don't have any choice. And people on Facebook are saying, well, go to Creekside. Well, I finally did. I'm so sick of the billing at Peace Health. That's what I did. I'm going to Creekside. So if everybody goes to Creekside, we're going to be filling up the Mary Frances building. And what are we going to do with this really nice facility that we just built? I've heard some people telling me about price fixing, that, you're undercutting our doctors, so you nurse practitioners have to charge the same amount. What? You know, I don't know. I don't know if it's a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I mean, it is a rumor, but I don't know if it's true, you know. But it would be nice to get these things out in the open, because a lot of people have said there are issues, and she says there's many, many issues. That was just the one. That was the one issue. I had an insider send me a text message and tell me some of the other side of the story. And basically, I think people are offended because she's got a strong spine, and she didn't want to put up with it.
Well, we've had a lot of complaints about billing and stuff, and that's what we're dealing with now here. On personnel thing, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
But except go to Peace Health and go to the head of Peace Health or to down south headquarters.
And that's what she tried to do, and she got in trouble for doing that. Okay. Yep.
But I appreciate you coming.
Yep.
Thanks. Talk to you later. Chelsea.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Goucher. I live at 436 Main Street, and I'm here today on behalf of the Greater Ketchikan Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here to just encourage you to keep working on the healthcare transparency issue. Obviously, there are many issues and many layers to the complexity of the healthcare industry and how it's impacting people not only in our community but in the entire nation. I think that what you guys are doing and the efforts you're putting in to kind of take a first step to address like the first tiny little tip of the iceberg is very admirable. And I also want to let you know that I appreciate what you did and Carl staff in putting together the open house for the community to come and talk. We had many different providers there come and speak to me. I learned a lot. And I heard a lot of comments, and again tonight more feedback. And so I think it's just really important that we keep moving forward on this issue. I think we all want to see more transparency, and I think we all can acknowledge that there is an issue there and that consumers are feeling dissatisfied and they aren't feeling protected. And sometimes it is the role of government to step in and protect people that are not feeling like they have any recourse or any place to turn to get help or to make their situation better. So I think we're on the right track. I would certainly encourage you from the perspective of the chamber to to move forward with putting something into an ordinance for the city. But I would also just say, that to take into account the comments we heard at the open house and the letters you received from our businesses in this community that are really trying to do their best. And I think there is a way that we can kind of come to a middle ground where we can help some consumers and also not put an undue burden on our businesses that's going to strap them economically or force them to do things that are just unreasonable as far as time or staffing. So I would just kind of encourage you to dig into it a little bit more. And I think that if it takes us a few months to get a good law written, I think that that's better than rushing something through that maybe is less clear or more complicated than it needs to be to do what we're trying to do to really protect people in this community that are frustrated and having a hard time navigating a really difficult industry. That's
Any
it.
questions for Chelsea?
No, thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else want to talk to the council tonight that didn't sign up? Come on down.
How did I know that was coming?
Well. Good evening. I'm Renee Schofield. I'm the owner of TSS Incorporated, and I'm here tonight to speak to you about the Small Business Development Center and the grant funding. And I don't know how many of you have ever visited the Small Business Development Office. Anybody? Yeah, so you see kind of what goes on there. I don't know if you've ever been there when counseling's going on because it's very confidential and we keep it, we support those business owners in their endeavors because some of them are just dreaming when they walk in and some of them walk out with a business. So what I want to say about that is in 2017, we had 598.64, that's how tight we keep track of the numbers, counseling hours. Direct client, me talking to you, counselor, not me, but the counselor talking to the business owner. 598, almost 599. We also had 168 co-counseling hours, meaning our counselor in Ketchikan worked with another business counselor throughout the state or the nation with a business owner on a different project. So through those hours, 13 new businesses were created in 2017. 13. That brought 33 new jobs to Southern Southeast. That's a big deal. That's 33 people that went to work, and it's 13 business licenses that were established that may or may not have been. Some people can go out and make it on their own and find their way. But through the SBDC, and I've been using SBDC since 1992, I'm a believer, still using it today. So I would really ask you to look at the numbers. I know it's tough. I know that money is tight. But when you have a business, an organization as SBDC that can come and infuse new dollars and create new business, something you got to have. And I'm happy to entertain any questions, but I would really like for you to look at the funding for the SBDC and support that organization.
Anybody have any questions for Renee? Thank you, Renee. Awesome. Anybody else want to address the council tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda, to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Are you going to add something?
Oh, shoot. On the consent under unfinished business 6A, 1, 3, and 4, I was going to add, that's 1, 3, and 4, and then under new business, I had 2, 5, 6, and 8. Any objection?
Just a minute.
Take your time.
5, 6, and 8.
5, 6, and 8. 2, 5, 6, and 8.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll add those to it. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move to consent.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, can you read the items?
Approval of minutes, regular city council meeting of March 15th, 2018. Resolution number 182695, amending the 2018 general government operating and capital budget to provide a supplemental appropriation for the library department in the amount of $1,500. Budget transfers, the city clerk and city manager compensation adjustments. Budget transfer 2018 Southeast Conference annual meeting host city reception. Exempting the procurement of the annual telephone switch platform software support and maintenance services from the competitive bidding and written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, and that is with a company called Sonus. Exempting the procurement of optimization services from the competitive bidding and written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, that's with Ericsson Incorporated. Budget transfers for the 4G LTE mobile network additional work projects. Donation of surplus equipment, and that's miscellaneous cooking supplies. Appointments to boards and commissions, Mayor Williams. Ordinance number 1875, quit claiming the city's interest in real property located at 809 Water Street to John and Margaret Caruza to remove a cloud on the title. That's in second reading. Ordinance number 1874, amending section 18.44.020 of the Ketchikan Municipal Code entitled Charges Regarding Ambulance Charges. That's in second reading. The 2018 Police Department Vehicle Acquisition. That's with Kendall Ford. Exempting the procurement of a replacement Vaptor sewer cleaner and jetter from competitive bidding quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code. That's with Yukon Equipment. And another procurement from Yukon Equipment of a replacement street sweeper from competitive bidding and written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code. And a budget transfer, promotion of information technology system administrator to senior system administrator.
Anybody have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. I would just like to make comments on the two bids that we did for some public works equipment, and the fact that one of the reasons why we exempted them is they're purchasing them under a National Joint Power Alliance contract, and they're an outfit that helps municipalities with the purchasing of standard equipment that most cities use at an improved cost.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else? Dick?
Yeah, just a comment. Last meeting I asked about some justification on the ambulance charges increases, and I read what we got, and without getting into it, I didn't think that was much of justification. I just want more money.
Thank you, Dick. Anybody else? Call the roll.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy? Yes. Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to unfinished business 682, ordinance 1872, adding a new chapter 7.0 entitled Healthcare and Transparency to the Ketchikan Municipal Code. Second reading. Judy, what do you want to do?
I move the City Council direct staff to revise ordinance number 18-1872 as determined appropriate by the City Council, and to resubmit such revised ordinance for consideration in first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. What do you want to do, Judy?
Well, I would like to see us fashion this ordinance to be more in line with what we know is coming down from the state. I think that makes sense. I sort of threw out there that I think the top 25 procedures would be appropriate. Today, I'm sorry, my voice is cracking because I have a cold. Today, I had 21 people contact me. That's a lot of people.
Yes.
And some of them were billing procedures that are, billing errors. But a lot of them is because they didn't know going in what the bill was going to be. And they had no idea it was going to be as high as it was. They feel that had they known, they would have been better equipped to deal with it. And again, they all had to do with Peace Health. I did not get one call about any clinics. As I understand it, though, we have to do this across the board. And so to me, the top 25 procedures, I think that I don't know how to make it fair. I understand that some of the clinics, it is going to be a burden. I understand that. I Creekside, I go to their website, I see how much it's going to be. So I really don't understand how difficult it will be for these providers. To me, you do it once and then you're done. But obviously I'm missing something there. So that's what I would like to see happen, and I sure would like to hear from the rest of you, what you think.
Dick and then Bob.
Yeah, I think we heard a proposal tonight from a young lady in one of the clinics that said, let's put a committee together. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, we know what we need. We know something needs to be done, but we don't know what the top 25 are. And Jason volunteered to help, and so I think we'll take him up on it, let him run it. And but I think that would help us out tremendously. That if someone picked up on that, or we established a committee, and maybe we don't have to have the top 25 for the small clinics. Maybe it's only the top 5. But let them recommend to us, and then we can take this thing and tweak it. And I don't see there's a panic to doing it tomorrow, like Chelsea said.
Let's do it.
Take
right.
a month and get it done, and get it done right. That's my thought.
And I agree with that.
Bob?
Yeah, I don't disagree. The last thing we want to do is penalize our health care providers. But again, we have the realization that there is some issues out there that need to be corrected. And this is coming down the pike again, as we said, on a state level. But I think that the city is as deeply involved in it as anybody, being that we're a landlord and we receive a lot of those complaints. So I guess procedurally, I don't know if we defer this until after we have a committee meeting, or if we pass the top 25 procedures in regards to the hospital. That gives us time to put a committee together and start discussing. We can defer it at the second reading. I don't know what the council
I'd just
would like to do.
defer it until, if you guys want a committee, have them come up with some ideas.
I have a problem with deferring it and not doing anything, because that's exactly what people think we're going to do. And then they accuse us of not doing anything and kicking it down the road. I don't want to do that. So if there's a way that we can say, let's have a committee and Jason Harris is going to be in charge of it, I will make that motion. But I think we have to do something. If that's, I don't know.
Well, after Janet Lee speaks, make a motion. Janet Lee?
I agree. I've lived in multiple communities where transparency has never been an issue. Anchorage. When it comes to emergency services, I think we all know that Guardian's going to do what they're going to do, and I'm not going to be asking you what I'm going to be paying for while you're saving my life. I'm going to take that for granted. However, and I know for the most part, we're talking about our biggest entity in town, and we're talking about Peace Health. And we're talking about the issues of people being billed after the fact. And again, like people have said, and I've gotten multiple responses on Facebook of people are afraid. They're afraid they're going to have repercussions. They're afraid that there's backlash. Well, I'm feeling it already. And but I'm not going to back down, because like that doctor who was fired, I have a spine. And nobody's going to tell me to shut up and not say anything because I can't get a job now because we're not going to, because she talks too much about the issue. The issue is that somebody needs to be held accountable for billing. Smaller entities, when I go to the local doctors here, other than Peace Health, because I too do not go there because I get these mysterious bills. But when I walk into the dentist or I walk into the doctor, I have an idea. They give me an idea what my insurance is going to cover, and they give me that what's going to be my part of that and what I'm going to owe. And I get that statement. When I now fly down to Seattle and I go to Harborview, I get a bill within a month after my visits, and I get an itemized bill. I have sent payments for other, my husband's bills to Peace Health. I have no idea if they've ever received a payment, because I keep getting a bill for the same amount. these are the things people are dealing with. I too don't want to defer this. We need to get on this. I know everybody's busy, but everybody, I mean, we need to take time to do it. We need to do it right. And it's not about penalizing the smaller entities. It's about holding, I hate to say it, I'm going to say it. It's about holding Peace Health accountable. And it's been 20 years coming. And I'm just done. So.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yeah, Mark.
I think procedurally, alternative motion 2 hits the mark because we can revise the ordinance with the help of the committee.
Right.
This has been a heck of an education. I'd say starting this conversation was outstanding. I had no idea how complicated estimates within the healthcare community is. I'd like to think I know something about estimates, but I'm out of my league with this stuff. Councilmember Coos said it perfectly. We don't know what we're doing, but we know what the expectation of the community is. That's pretty simple. Did see a couple of comments. No one came to speak to it tonight about wanting to be exempted. Can't go there. Big, small, otherwise. Creating something that's discriminatory by nature probably will fail in the end. But with the help of this committee that we're talking about, hopefully these folks can help us have the tools to make it workable. It is a lot of work. They are small offices. My primary care provider is a small office. I get it. I'm a small office, but we still have to include everybody in it. But I think we can move forward with alternative motion 2 and get this thing going in the right direction.
Dick and Judy.
Well, I was just going to say I agree with Mark. Alternative 2 probably works, but I think we ought to put a date on it, like 2 meetings out, because I don't want it to drag. But that may be too quick too. But we can have that discussion also. But let's don't leave it undetermined as when it comes back.
Judy?
And I'd like to see a council member sit on the committee, just so it gives us a better understanding of what we're trying to do.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think Carl wants to say
Carl.
Just for clarification,
Since I'm going to dump it all on you.
Mr. Harris is going to chair the committee.
Yeah, we have to.
Are you going to appoint
I'm going to ask who wants to be on there.
in terms of
A council representative.
providers?
Oh, providers?
That's
I was-
sit on the committee.
I was thinking we'd just contact all the providers and see who wants to join.
Is the chairman doing that or who?
No, I was going to put Carl.
I can do that, but you've got the list of providers, getting a response from that many people, and then having it come back by the first meeting in May is going to be a pretty difficult task.
If they know we're putting this committee together, can they just apply just like they do with any of our other committees, and then you appoint?
Run it through the clerk's office as long as you other
Have
committees.
people submit and then we'll make the committee.
We had a couple that already, they said they'd be more than glad, like the eyeglass place.
But I think they have to
Yeah,
do
just
the
have it.
same.
So they get their name to the clerk's office.
So what do we have on the table right now, Your Honor?
We have a motion to
give direction to
give direction.
staff. And can I suggest that the council refer the ordinance to, for lack of a better term, the Healthcare Transparency Committee, the makeup of which is?
To be determined.
Of local providers.
That could be a lot of people.
No, we'll see how many sign up, and then we won't go bigger than 7 or 9.
Yeah.
As determined by the mayor and the chairman.
Sounds good. Jason can hang out. Last time we hung out, we were on a plane heading to Seattle. It was a great flight until we landed with a thump. But Klinger's not here to complain. So. All right, so that's our plan of attack. Everybody understand what we're doing?
And there should to be a council member on the committee as well.
Yes, we'll ask somebody who would like to be on there. Call the roll. We're just giving direction, but I think we should vote on this.
Okay. Coos.
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
And Severson?
Yes.
Okay, any council member wants to be on it, get a hold of me. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason, for volunteering. All right, that brings us down to new business 7A1, budget transfer, last Department of Public Safety Training Academy. I held that off from going on the consent agenda just so we know that we're now paying for the service now. It's not free anymore.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move the City Council authorize the budget transfer in the amount of $33,000 from the appropriate reserve to the general fund to the Police Department 2018 Training and Education account number 600-03, for the purpose of funding the cost of 3 officers to attend Alaska Department of Public Safety Training Academy.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bob, did you want to add anything?
No, as you said, the state of Alaska has stopped reimbursing communities or paying for the education and training of our new police officers, and this is going to be the new norm. And we do have 3 new officers now that we are presently going to be setting up for training after they do some of their field work here.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Lou, just a quick
Yeah.
question, probably for the chief, is that's 3 officers gone for that period of time at once. Is there a way to stagger the training and be beneficial?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We're gonna be short regardless. We have 3 that we're trying to send in August. The next academy is in February. By that time, we're going to be looking at sending probably 3 more.
Okay.
This year alone, in 2018, I'm projecting to hire and train 7 officers. One of them will be already trained, so we don't have to send them to the academy, but the others are probably all going to be entry-level officers, and they will all require academy training. So my goal is to get people hired while these 3 go to the academy so they can fill in while those 3 are gone, and then just kind of leapfrog them.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, caller. Oh, Julie.
Just a comment that, not a question, just a comment that kind of piggybacking on what Lillette said, that sometimes we tend to forget that there are people coming to the town, coming to Ketchikan that love it, living here too. She said, we all know there's some people who just can't live here and that hate it once they get here. But these are 3 smart, young individuals, and one of them is in the process of buying a home and moving her family here. So I just wanted to say this is a really good thing for our community.
Bob?
Yeah, can I talk across the table for a minute?
You bet.
Okay. Judy, in regard to the fund that you're going to propose using in a future motion, is there going to be enough money to fund these guys out of that? $33,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yes, there will be.
Well, wait a minute. How much? It's.
33,000.
Oh, yeah, I think there is. But.
No,
No.
we can't do that.
That money has already been appropriated, so it's already factored in to the 2018 general government
Okay,
budget.
okay, okay. All right, thank you. Now you're thinking.
So it's already factored in for them to go, right? From
No,
the
this is
budget.
when we're taking out reserves.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Flora?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. That brings us down to 7A3, budget transfer, installation exterior City Hall and Pioneer Alley security cameras. Do we have a motion? Well, there's 2 motions we have to make.
There is, yes. Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move the City Council authorize the budget transfer in the amount of $12,360 from the appropriate reserve to the Public Works Sales Tax Fund to Building Maintenance Division 2018 City Hall and Pioneer Alley exterior security camera installation capital account in order to fund the installation of 6 exterior security cameras at City Hall and Pioneer Alley.
We have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Carl, did you want to add anything since it's
Mr.
coming out of you
Mayor,
guys?
I'm sure most of the council is aware, and that Chief White can go into much further detail than I can. We've had a rash of burglaries in the downtown this year. And over the years, we've had problems with the Pioneer Alley. You can ask any employee that works at City Hall. This is becoming an increasing concern, not just at this building, but I would anticipate when we present next year's budget, you will be seeing requests for security at other municipal facilities. I recently met with one individual whose wife, unfortunately, was the tragic victim of a hit and run up at the Civic Center Cape Fox parking lot. And it would have been of great help to us if we had security cameras on that lot, for example. It's an issue in downtown, and I think I'll just defer to Chief White if you want to add anything.
Sure. I honestly, I think this has been a long time coming, especially in this location. Historically, we've had a lot of issues in there in my 22 years with the police department. And as city manager said, I think that you're going to see that this is probably something we need to look at for other municipal buildings. Today, they're really a great tool in not only preventing crime, but helping us solve it. And technology's changed so much that instead of hard wires running into a central location, we can do it via the internet, and it's remote. And we're working with the high school to get access to some of their facilities cameras. And I mean, this is just kind of the next step in technology and making people safe.
Anybody else? Bob?
And this is probably speaking more to the recommendation in motion number 2. But are we doing the best thing in regards to how we are transmitting this information? Are we doing it the most economical way? Are there other ways to run cameras other than? I mean, if we're just talking about the cameras here for $3,000, and we're looking at all the other buildings, we're adding another $15,000 to $21,000 to our budget for line charges, which of course we own. That's not a bad deal either, but
I can speak to, we used to have some important security cameras in our facility, and they were all hardwired in. And our building's old. There's not a lot of access that we can get these technology coming in hardwired. We are at capacity. So now being able to do it via internet is amazing. So we can bring in all kinds of technology from all kinds of areas of the city and monitor it remotely over the internet and dispatch. So I know, yeah, the service is a little expensive. I understand that, but I think it is. I think it's the best way to go.
Well,
And
you
maybe
need to change the lighting though too. The lighting back here. Because when I was here for the Pioneers meeting, it is really dark.
It is dark. We've tried to upgrade some lighting within the police department. The garage, I know we redid all the lights there last year. Made a huge difference. That was my fault when I went and looked around. I forgot that kind of the under parking there. So I am going to look at the end of the year to see if I have any extra money to try to get that covered parking area redone. Those light bulbs, the ballasts are done. It's outdated technology. The light bulbs are gone. We need to kind of look at that too. So I was going to look at that at the end of the year to see what I had left to spruce that up if we could.
So all I'm asking, Joe, is I don't know how we design this system. If we just looked in the catalog and figure out we like this, or did we consult with somebody that?
This was coordinated with KPU Telecom and KPU Sales Marketing and Customer Service. So it just wasn't the police department going in the catalog. We brought in the experts who can do this.
I just want to make sure we're doing it because I know this is going to grow.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that if we start here and we find out that we didn't do all of our best research and there's something better, that later on down the line we're going to have to come back and replace this to make it match something else. That's all I want.
I know KPU came in and did a survey study for us to get the best coverage with the least amount of cameras we could do, and they diagrammed the whole thing and looked at it.
And they're providing security camera services through the city?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Dick.
Yeah, without trying to get into the detail though, is that one dedicated line, probably from here to KPU or wherever, is that for each camera? Is that one line because all the cameras go into one line? I'm just curious, so maybe we don't need to know the detail, but let's keep the number of amount of it down to minimum?
Kim Simpson, Division Manager, Sales, Marketing, Customer Service in the business group. It's one internet connection that all the cameras connect to, and via the internet, there's a web portal that the city manager would have access to, as well as the police department. It could be Chief White could also have access, so there will be a login that they could look at any camera at any time. We're going to switch the Port Harbor cameras over to the same interface so that at any time the police could instantaneously get into any one of those cameras. And what's really nice about these cameras is you can, when you pull it up, you can actually grab the cursor and you can drag it back in time. You don't have to go to an old server and use special software. And we have all these old cameras that all had different software, and I would get these old laptops. You'd have to download the movie and then try and go in and find it. You can literally grab it and go back in time and find the exact picture you want, and then you can zoom it up.
Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Call the roll.
Severson?
Yeah.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
Okay, now do we need the second motion too?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Move the City Council authorize the budget transfer in the amount of $3,105 from the appropriated reserve to the general fund to the Building Maintenance Division 2018 telecommunication account number 65001, and fund 9 months of line and internet charges associated with the exterior security cameras.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I think we talked about this. Call the roll.
Nope.
Oh, you want to?
So, are all the security cameras that we're going to be put into our facilities going to be billed through building maintenance, or do they go to the individual facility, or to the police department?
Like in the case of the Civic Center, it would be charged to the Civic Center. If the fire department buildings were monitored, it would be charged to the fire department.
Okay.
City Hall just happens to come under the Building Maintenance Division, and that's why it's charged in that way.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Flora?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to 7A4, exempting the procurement of installation of police department radio repeaters and reprogramming of dispatch console and emergency response radios, Procom Alaska LLC. I think I just put this one on here because of the cost. If I remember right, but I can't remember. We have a motion.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Pursuant to subparagraph 6, section 3.12.050A of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, I move the City Council exempt the procurement and installation of 2 radio repeaters, associated programming of the dispatch console, and emergency response radios from the competitive bidding, written quotations, and requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, authorizing the city manager to enter into the agreement for the procurement and installation of such repeaters and programming services from Procom Alaska LLC at a cost of $78,210, and approve funding from the Police Department's 2018 radio repeater installation and capital account.
Second.
Moving in second. Bob, do you have anything to add?
It's been a long time coming, and because of our topography here, we got too many dead spots, and it's, this is, I think, good cooperation with I think it's going to be at the airport maintenance building. It'll be a good broadcast center to get stuff out to the community. So, thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
I can't remember why I didn't put on consent. So,
Okay.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Severson? Severson?
Oh, yes.
Isom?
Yes.
And Flora?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to 7A7, 2018 Community Agency Funding Agreements. Go ahead.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
So I passed out this sheet, a new revised sheet, and I'd ask for your patience and understanding, because it just might take me a minute to get all through this. So I'll start with my first motion. And, Your Honor, I move to remove the following agencies from the 2018 Community Grant Request List. First City Homeless Overnight Warming Center in the amount of $35,000. First City Homeless Day Shelter in the amount of $12,000. Ketchikan Committee for the Homeless PATH, $48,500. And to fund these requests from the marijuana sales tax collected for a total of $95,500.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
So, every year we have this grant committee, and we're asking them to weigh agencies like Historic Ketchikan and the Arts and Humanities against providing a bowl of soup and a place for people to get out of the cold. How do you compare those two? You just can't. But it doesn't make those agencies less valuable to our community. I believe that we've all had the same comments at this table, and I think now's the time to make the move and to have those funded separately. Homelessness is a problem in our community. It's not going away. And I think the community and this council needs to take a serious look at how we're going to work with those agencies to solve the problem.
Your Honor.
Go ahead, Mark, and then Julie.
I agree with Judy. I'm not sure if I necessarily, this is kind of new information, I'm not necessarily if I agree with how Councilmember Zingy has compartmentalized it, but this is from that nice thick blue binder. The Community Grant Program was established to provide financial support to community-based nonprofit humanitarian agencies. That's how this was written. And it is a difficult decision, and I'm not on the grants committee, but it is a difficult decision to compare agencies that are a blanket and a bowl of soup and a place to get out of the rain with some of these other organizations. There isn't one agency on this list that isn't worthy of consideration. But I think the delineation between agencies that need funding that the community, our bosses at large, want us to fund and that contribute to quality of life be distinctly separate from humanitarian causes, because a lot of these agencies that are on this list simply do not rise to that bar.
Julie, you're next.
Okay. I partially agree with you, Mark. I like what you said about hearing Sam Stout get up and talk about how the two places have saved his life, and then right after him to see Kathleen get up and talk about that organization, which is a great organization, and they ask for the same amount every year, never more, to base the same amount. It's just not right that one is vetted against the other, and I am on the grants committee. I would actually, I like what Judy's saying. I like that we need to pull them out because the city needs to deal with it. One of the reasons why, as we talked in the grants committee, why they were cut, the homeless shelter and the warming shelter, in talking about it, we talked about who put the best fundraising efforts forward. Well, they probably don't need to be fundraising. This is a city problem. This is our problem, and we shouldn't put it back on them to have to create fundraising for that problem. So I would like to amend. I can amend the motion, can't I?
Yeah.
Can I offer an amendment? Because I want to see the small business development get their money in talking to John and Kimberly, which Kimberly will not be coming back. She did say she's got problems. She's dealing with personal problems up in Anchorage, and she won't be coming back. But John did say they will do everything they can do in their power to put a full-time person right here in Ketchikan if we offer that funding. If we meet them, it's a small percentage. It's $25,000. So if we do what you say and bring the other agencies up to the funding that they asked for in 2018, and add full funding of the Small Business Development Center, and taking out the three that you said, then we have enough. So that's my amendment.
Okay.
Probably needs a second.
So,
say what it is again.
Oh, my amendment is to.
If I could just, so there's going to be a second motion that's going to deal with those.
The individual amounts?
No, it's going to deal with the committee recommendations.
Okay.
With all of these. My motion is just with these three.
That's my mistake. I thought it was the same. I thought it was in with that.
And
motion.
then we put it in.
Okay.
All right, so let's just talk about the three that she pulled out. Kelly.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Judy for putting this together. We can, I agree with you, Mark. However, I will say being that I actually do a lot of stuff with a lot of these agencies, they all work together too. And although sometimes we don't look at art and we don't look at the theater as a humanitarian or social program, their programs actually have a direct correlation to how our community thrives and also survives and deals with everything from, it actually is shown to lower all kinds of social issues from alcohol, drugs, and so on and so forth.
Well, I think you make an excellent point, but how we decide how these agencies, if we change or modify funding mechanisms, that in no way would preclude these agencies from continuing to work together. They can still have their symbiotic relationship for the greater good of the community. It's just the mechanisms by which each individual agency gets its funding changes.
Yeah, the thing I'd like to point out is that the one thing that kind of threw us into a loop was the warming shelter, which was added in and taken away. And one of the hardest thing is looking at how do I penalize all these other agencies for a program that we do need. And it does benefit the city, the police department substantially, and Peace Health. And it isn't going away. However, I also think that we need to look at, the warming shelter, the day shelter, they do an amazing job, and they do their fundraisers just like everyone else does, and they raise a lot of funding that assists in all of these areas. However, we're also going to have to start looking at how are we going to address the housing issue, the cost of living issue, and the minimum wage, and the fact that we're going to have more people. At the committee meeting, PATH, we had someone speak to the fact that they're seeing more senior citizens at PATH. They're seeing more disabled people at PATH. So there's a different group. It's not necessarily somebody from out of town who has been hoaxed into an ad that they've seen in a newspaper that says come to Alaska, which I know are out there. And I don't know how we address that issue too.
Bob?
I think we're on the correct path here, but what I would like to do is first of all consider the motion that Judy made to remove the selected group from the community aid grant policy, and whether or not we approve with the alternative funding. But I've sat on this committee before, and they do a lot of hard work. And rather than sit here at this, they have new funds now because we remove this and they put them in. I think that we should reconvene that committee and allow them to do the distribution of the money. They got more money. They can. That's their job.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
Just for clarification. I understand the intent of the motion, and I agree with it. You're really talking about adding 12 to 13,000 back to fund those three entities that are dealing with the homeless issue. Okay. This isn't, after you do that, if that's the council's desire, there's not newfound money. You set a maximum appropriation. You're just now changing the sources of that funding, but there isn't new money to play with. You're actually adding about 12 to 13,000 to the overall spending plan for 2018, and that's fine. That flexibility is in the budget. We have vacancies. That's not a problem. But I just want the council to understand that if that motion's adopted, there isn't really newfound money then to fund everybody else to what they requested. You can do that if you desire, but there's not newfound money.
Yeah, in the motion, Judy had stipulated the funds that were collected from the marijuana taxes month. Correct.
Right, so
Are those monies in a separate account, or are they part of the full appropriation?
The council put that in the general fund.
So those monies aren't available as a separate account at this particular point in time?
Not until such time as either informally or formally, going forward, the council wants to designate them for a specific use.
But that's not happening at this time, because we've already designated that money, put it into the general.
All that's been done is designating the general fund.
Could there be a budget control?
Judy, you're next.
No, I'm just still wrapping my head. These guys.
If the intent is to use the marijuana funds going forward, let's just say to fund the homeless issue, that can be done either by informal direction to staff going forward, or if you want to formalize it, codify it, we can bring an ordinance to do that and amend the budget if that's the council's intent. I don't think that's necessary at this point, but if you want to formally go in that direction in anticipation of the 19 budget, we certainly can bring an ordinance forward.
Well, we don't have that available now. Correct.
Not an ordinance, but the motion is an appropriate motion. It gives us direction if that's what the council wants to do.
Dick?
Yeah, I don't have a problem, I think, with pulling this out, and yeah, it's probably funded out of the marijuana money. My problem right now is that in my head, if I'm adding it up, and I know there's some desire to put the small business back in there, I had those numbers up, we're talking $40,000 to $50,000. And that's what bothers me. To the total. If you add all the totals up, you're talking $40,000 or $50,000 additional. And
Right.
I have some problems, if you want to be upfront with it. There's at least one organization in there that can raise their fees, and we know who it is, because we pay for it every time we go to a play or somewhere else. I guess so are the Arts Council. So they have the ability to raise money, whereas others do not. So I'm okay with one motion, but they all tie together at this point in time.
Okay, we're back to the first motion is to pull these out, pay them by the marijuana. Carl, would you guys make a separate then, when we get those financials, a separate thing for the marijuana?
We can do that.
Yeah, so pull it out. Okay. Judy, do you want to say something?
No, that's my understanding was that I misunderstood. I thought the $130,000 was a separate account. I didn't realize that it was.
Yeah, but
it can be.
If that's the council's desire,
I think that I would like to see that happen. I would like to see that be a separate fund to help fund these three.
Stanley, do you want to add something?
I'm with Judy. I think it's a great.
Bob?
If we were to pass this particular motion,
it would just, if you want to formally establish that, the motion you would be passing would just be giving direction for the finance director and I to put together whatever ordinance we need to establish that marijuana taxes collected is going to go into a specific fund for a specific purpose. As I understand it, it's to fund activities associated with addressing the homeless issue within the city.
but the motion asks us to do it this year.
If you want to pull that money out,
But then we have to backfill it with.
Again, as when we presented the budget, I think we projected a $1.4 million general fund deficit. We all know that's not going to happen just because. So I don't think that's an issue, Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. Stanley?
Okay, I have no problem with all of that. My only concern is with the small business. There were two things that bothered me about the first year we pulled funding because they didn't have anyone here. They came back after we gave them some funding and they brought someone in. The first meeting that the person did show up, he implied that it was going to be staffed by a person in Juneau. If we're going to refund that, I would stress that there has to be someone here in town. Because I'm sorry, but we already went through that whole out of town, oh, maybe they'll fly down once a month and meet with people kind of thing, and didn't happen.
Well, let's go back to the first motion. We all understand what it is. So, Dick, did you have something you wanted to add?
Just one thing I'm concerned about, if we're saying that the marijuana tax is $130,000, to me, that's not carte blanche to go up to $130,000 on this issue.
We might need more.
Mark, he's got the tip.
Your Honor, I like Judy's idea. I guess my only concern is if we proceed as proposed, then we still leave in some very distinctly humanitarian agencies. Southeast Senior Services, food and fuel, bowl soup and being warm, and we leave that in with Historic Ketchikan, FCP, the Arts Council, those types of organizations. And so the Grants Committee will still be tasked with the duality of trying to prioritize who gets what. I like your idea. I think we should. I also like your idea, Councilmember Severson, about send this back to grants, but I would like consideration for strictly humanitarian concerns, food, fuel, blankets, to be distinctly separate from all of the other non-humanitarian worthy nonprofit agencies.
Oh, wow. Generally,
I know it's not ideal, but I mean, personally, this last time I was even like, is there? I mean, what if we just added the money from the marijuana into the? I mean, if it's going to be that much of a stickler, take the money and put it into match that from the marijuana fund. However, I mean, I get that the senior services and all those things, those entities, but they've also been in the grant process for a long period of time. But maybe we need to look at adding funding to the grants over a period of time. I know we do the 1%, I get that, but from the marijuana. Because we are seeing more agencies like the night shelter and the benefits.
Okay, Dick?
I was just going to make a comment. There's a couple of people I think have said on the committee, Mark, I'm not too sure he has, but
no.
Food and fuel for senior citizens services is not food and fuel for a house. It is to help them run their buses and to provide food. That
still rises to the humanitarian bar, at least in my opinion. So sorry I missed that, but
yeah, and that's okay. I didn't want to gig anybody, but understanding of what it is, and sometimes there's been some issues with the services being provided. So then it's provided by I think the Catholic Services out of Juneau. Is that where it's coming from? Goes to them. There's been some other issues. So.
Well, we can do this where we separated these ones out and funded by the marijuana, or we could just you just put the marijuana tax in there and change the whole formula. But I think Judy's got a good point. And Mark, I understand humanitarian. When we used to do this, I always made sure the humanitarian guys were funded first before anybody else, and that was just we had everybody there, but that was the philosophy instead of in writing or anything. But let's vote on this first motion, see where we're at. Call the roll.
Flora?
yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Severson?
Yeah. Okay, that motion passes. Now, Judy, did you have another motion?
Well, I think I did, but I have a question of the manager. So now, let me understand. What is left in community grants, you're saying is not the $377,000? You're saying that
Because, so now, explain it all to me again, because apparently I don't know what I'm doing.
All I'm saying is what was originally appropriated in the general fund, or the general government budget, includes the $377 that the council initially appropriated and the $130,000.
Oh, okay.
As I understand the intent of the motion, it was to begin looking at the $130,000 going forward, at $130,000 collected in marijuana tax as a mechanism to fund homeless services. I think Mr. Newell is going to try to help me out here.
I'm going to try and confuse you.
Like that's going to be a problem.
I guess another way to look at this is the council appropriated $377,000. If you spend more than $377,000, the difference is coming from appropriated reserves. So you're going to dip into reserves to spend more than $377,000.
And the motion the council just adopted added, I don't have the precise number, 12 to 13,000 to fund the three homeless services to the amount that they originally requested, the 95.5. So you've added 12 to 13,000 to your budget, and the direction, as I understand from the motion, is you want the finance director and I to come back with something more formal as a dedication of the marijuana tax to homeless services, but you're not spending more than the 95.5 that you've authorized, because the way this is set up, depending on what you do with the other agencies, I will go out and draft funding agreements for those three agencies totaling 95.5. So right now, all you've done is added 12 to 13,000 to the spending plan.
Bob?
Unfortunately, Carl, that's not the way I understood it. What I understood is she wants to fund the full $95,000 out separate from the community aging grant 377.
We can come back and do an ordinance to do that. My recommendation to the council is that you not defer processing the funding agreements, because to do an ordinance, you're going to be at least 60 more days out. We're late already. I mean, this is usually done in February. So we can come back and do that and dedicate the money and fund 95.5 out of that $130,000 pot of money. You've added 12 to 13,000 to the overall budget. Then you now can decide what you want to do with the other agencies, if anything. If you add, for instance, 25,000 for the Small Business Development Center, that's going to be an additional 25,000 to the budget. We're going to have to come with
take it out of
reserves. You know, that's what would be required to take it out of appropriated reserves.
Dick?
Okay, if I'm reading the chart right, from what Judy has here.
Don't even look at that. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
I think I get what,
Good. Let's rescind the motion.
what he's saying.
What we're going to say is that we've still got agencies based on the recommendation of the committee for $293,352.
Right.
But we take $95,500 away from that.
No.
Well, okay.
I've already done that.
Where did I get that part at?
So let me just tell you what I thought, and then you guys.
No, I'm good. Let me back off.
Okay.
I took the 95.5 away from the 377. That only leaves 271.5. So it means we're short $21,800. And if we add 25 for the community agencies or the little small business, that's 46, which we would have to add out of reserves. Right. Any way we do it, we're going to add either almost 22, or we're going to add 47 back out of reserves.
So
Well, let's have Julie first.
Is there a motion on the floor?
No, we're just
No,
sort of
we're
talking
just
before we
talking
make
about
a
it
motion.
before we-
Okay. Can I make a
You,
motion?
you bet.
Because I think
Well,
we
you tired-
we all
you tired
now
of talking?
understand. Well, I think we understand the reserves part of it now. I'd just like to make a motion
Go
that
ahead.
due to the fact that the Grants Committee did come up with this 2018 recommendations, I'd like to make the motion that we fund those recommendations minus the ones that were just taken out because of the previous motion, adding to the reserves $15,000 for the Alaska Small Business Development Center, so that's my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And my reason for that is after rereading John Bittner's letter that he just sent, yesterday, maybe today, he's not even sure he can find a person to man that office. He will look. He's not real confident that he'll be able to find a person here in Ketchikan, and he's not sure he'll be able to find a person who wants to move to Ketchikan. The person who was in that position is not in any position to come back here and stay. She is, however, interested in our community, just not right now because of things going on in her life. So I think $15,000 would give him an idea that we are still interested. It helped so many businesses. We heard from Renee during public comment of how many, I wrote it down, 13 new businesses, 33 new jobs in 2017. I think it's a worthy thing to at least put $15,000 toward.
All right, that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. And anybody else want to speak to it?
So the motion is the existing level that you agreed on,
Yes,
but adding 15,000 for
Small business.
exactly.
Okay. Call the roll.
Severson?
yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Floor?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. So I think management has an idea of what we want to do in the future. Or
Just
go ahead.
clarify the motion that was just adopted. It was to fund the remaining agencies as the committee recommended, and then adding an additional $15,000 for the small business. I just
Right.
okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Is it possible, because I know the timing was really bad with January and February for most people, but is it possible to do the grants earlier? I mean, like October or whatever, so that we could actually avoid, or maybe possibly
The
account
council
for-
would have to set a dollar amount in advance of the 2019 budget being presented if you
Okay.
wanted to do it in the fall, and staff would lock that in when we present the budget.
You could do that.
Dick?
Well, if we have a meeting, say in July, like we would normally do, and say give direction on the budget, we could give direction at that time.
Correct.
It's possible. January has worked really good until this year, which was probably
It's
my
just so
fault.
much going on, so
So,
it wasn't your fault.
Judy?
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, let's move on to,
Your Honor,
Thank you.
oh, we got a question from the clerk.
Because I know it's going to come up tomorrow in discussion, but I know that when the budget's put together by staff, it's based on a percentage of the sales tax receipts, which at this time includes the marijuana. So from this point on, is that going to change? Because if you move all the marijuana to a special fund, then do you use sales tax receipts minus those particular ones? Or
That's a-
You had to bring that up
that needs to be a question that's answered. because-
Carl, answer the question.
My understanding of the direction of the council was that the three agencies associated with homeless activities and others that the council may add at a later date would be funded out of the proceeds of the marijuana tax. The remaining agencies would be funded by the same formula that has been traditionally used.
All right, so that brings us to number 9. Budget transfer amendment 2 to contract 1715 design of Berth 3 improvements and barge overhaul Moffett Nickel.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move to City Council approve amendment number 2 to contract number 17-15, design of berth 3 improvement and barge overhaul between the city and Moffett Nichols in the amount of $70,971, bringing the total contract cost to $582,691, authorizing a budget transfer of $70,971 from the appropriate reserves of the Port Enterprise Fund to the Port Department Berth 3 dock, dolphin, and repair and modification capital account. Approved funding for the Port Department Berth 3 dry dock and dolphin repair and modifications capital account, and direct the city manager to execute the amendment on behalf of the city council.
Second.
Moved and second. Bob, did you want to say anything?
Yeah. Why is this all our fault? I think that there has been some problems in regards to the quality of the work. I mean, from the pictures that I've seen and the fact that they got to do a bunch of other stuff down here, and they fell behind time, which caused Turnigan, because they had to get them to get the ramp on it. That wasn't our fault.
Port Harbor's Director Steve Corporon. This has nothing to do with Vigor's work on the barge. The inspection services that were part of Moffett and Nichols contract with the subcontractors, we estimated about how much we needed them on site to do the inspection work, and that was the initial part of the contract. Turnigan wasn't behind, and Vigor wasn't affecting any of the cost overrun on this. It was taking them a lot longer to do the work and doing more hours, and these guys were very good. I mean, they were out in the boat with them, inspecting everything under the dock, everything on the piles, making sure we got the quality that we wanted. So as a side, we also had them checking up on Vigor down on their work. They tried to get down there at least once a day and check in with that stuff. But Vigor still has work to do. I put a report in that Carl had in your manager's report. But these guys wrapped up on the 31st, and that's when we finally got the last of it wrapped up, because we also added some work to them. So that's why we ended up having 2 amendments to have them on the job for a longer time and also longer time every day to make sure we got the quality. But it has nothing to do with Vigor's work.
So, and who's going to do the inspection on this?
On the remaining Vigor work?
Yeah.
Vigor's current plan is to just put on the temporary coating between now and the end of the month with basically just standard international paint and non-skid. And then at the end of the season, we'll let them back on the site. And hopefully by then they'll have figured out why they had a failure on this one section of the barge with the Ceram coat. Because right now they still don't know why it failed. They're doing their forensics on it along with the manufacturer. And if we need third-party inspection services, then we're going to have to work with them on who's going to pay for that. But we're just going to inspect in-house for the temporary paint, because if it doesn't last more than 5 months, I don't care, because they're going to take it off and put the other stuff on this fall.
So what we're asking for today is not in regards.
This has nothing to do with Vigor's work. That is correct.
I misunderstood that, and thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else have anything before we call the roll? Call the roll.
Isa?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zinni?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. That brings us to item 10, liquor license renewal, potential protest, Crook Street Cabaret beverage dispensary. We have a couple different motions we can choose from.
Your Honor.
Go ahead, Bob.
I would choose alternative motion number 2. I move the City Council approve the renewal of the beverage dispensary Crook Street Cabaret license contingent upon satisfactory payment of delinquent personal and business property taxes prior to the regular City Council meeting of April 19th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and second. Anybody want to speak to it? Call the roll.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zinni?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
Okay, that is passed 6-0. That brings us down to 7B1, budget transfer, rewind to Beaver Falls, generator number 3. Some additional expense, it looks like. Or is this the one
this is the other unit.
Oh, that we possibly want to do or not for $550,000.
Correct.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move the City Council authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $550,000 from the appropriated reserve of the Ketchikan Enterprise Fund for the Electrical Division 218 Beaver Falls Generator Number 3 Rewind Capital Account for the purpose of funding the rewind of Generator Number 3.
Second.
Moved in second. Bob, did you want to speak to it?
Well, I brought this up, I think, originally, and I know that management had already been planning on it probably, but those two machines have been in service for a considerable amount of time. But I still have concerns is the fact that we ran it to failure, and I am concerned about our administration and KPU's ability to do preventive maintenance. We have a problem. I'm willing to fix those problems if I know about them, and if we do them on our schedule, I'm not running to failure on equipment like this.
Anybody else? Now, Carl, this has come out of this we hadn't budgeted for.
Correct.
And it'd be on 3. And when did it go down?
This one has not gone down.
Number 3?
It's still in operation.
It's in operation.
But it's the same age as the one that failed. And the concern is that we should have been looking at these a while back.
Yeah, wasn't there a previous discussion that there basically was no maintenance program
Yeah.
in place? There was no periodic maintenance from 1904.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like the opportunity, and I won't do it tonight, but to respond in writing on what we have done in preventive maintenance, both at the staff level and both at the council level.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lou, question.
Yes, Dick?
So the one that did go down, is it going to be repaired and back in service before we take this one down?
We're hopefully going to have that back in operation by the weekend, Councilmember Cruz.
Okay.
All right. Call the roll.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Then we have the laid on the table budget transfer declaration of public emergency for replacement of Bailey Generator 4 cylinder head with Zillan North America. And that's the one out at Bailey Power Plant, that big one? The Wadzilla one?
Correct.
Do we have a motion?
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Pursuant to paragraph 7, section 3.12.050 of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, I move the City Council declare that replacement of Bailey Generator Number 4 head as a public emergency and authorize the transfer of $80,000 from the Electrical Division 218 Transmission and Distribution Maintenance Capital Account to the Bailey Generator Number 4 cylinder head replacement capital account for the replacement of the cylinder head.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So this is offline right now, Carl?
Correct.
Okay. And how soon can we get the parts? Do I need to fly over there to Finland and grab it?
They've already been ordered. I've already taken care of that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Call the roll.
Your Honor, discussion. Again, we're into a situation here, and I know that nobody can really predict when something's going to fail in an engine service like this, but it sounds like we've had compared, and Andy, you can answer this if you like, past problems with these leaking heads and refurbishing them and replacing them. Should we have one of those in our parts inventory? I know it's an expensive part, but if that thing were to be down at a time when we needed it, it could be even more expensive than what we're thinking.
Agreed. So we had a spare, and if you remember, we remember an oil change. So we had a leak in that in one of the heads, and we used the spare in that position here towards the end of 2017. And so we took that head and we sent that out for repair, for refurbishment, and that's just coming back. This last go around, there was 2 heads found leaking. And so that head will replace one of those. This new one will replace the other. Now we'll have some additional heads we can send out for refurb, so we'll have at least 2 spares. The next question is, why now are we failing heads? Right? And that's a good question, and we're looking at that. Mr. Corporon used the term forensics. the engines were bought in a time period 20 years ago when we had different fuels. So now, because of emissions, we're obligated to use ultra-low sulfur fuels that don't have the BTU value. As a result, the engine has been, derated. In addition to it being derated, the whole exhaust system, everything doesn't work the same. All the valves have been changed. It's also gone through new wrist pins, etc., over these past years. What I'm thinking, what do I know about these things? It's a process that I learned in my past experience called FEGTs, fugitive gas emissions, because of late detonation. And I think it's rooted in the metallurgy in the exhaust valves, which is causing failure in the metals, and then you see the leak into the cooling system. So we're going to look into that. Okay, we're going to look into that metallurgy and see if the new heads have the same, et cetera. Also, the repairs that we're going to get back from this company in the UK. We've never dealt with this in the past. I think I mentioned in the report that we've now have some 12,700 hours on it, roughly a year and a half, right? We've had the engine for 20 years. We got a year and a half of runtime on it. I think another issue that comes up, again, from my experience in the past, when you have very large cooling systems, this has a very large cooling system. It's piped outside, big radiators, and it sits idle forever, right, for a long time. Not forever, but for weeks on end, and then you use it. I think you get lots of growth of microorganisms. Another phenomenon that I've seen in the past was something called MIC, microbe-induced corrosion. So I think if this was running on a more frequent basis, it sterilizes itself because of the heat, et cetera. But for sitting for a long time and this water sitting in the channels, et cetera, so we'll have to look into the chemistry associated with that also and see if that's not a factor. Now, I personally don't know if 3 heads in 20 years is good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, I think there's going to be some maintenance involved in it, and I think this is the right way. Now, you look at $44,000 for a head. I'm sorry, this engine is huge, right? It was $5 million. So back 20 years ago, I don't know what these things cost now. So we're going to have this kind of maintenance.
So just to clarify, and I don't know, Andy, are the cooling tubes cast inside of the head?
Yes, they are.
And so the metal is fatiguing or whatever it's doing, and those are actually leaking through into the cylinders.
Correct.
Okay.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Cylinder gas leaking into them. Do we have an antifreeze refurbishing unit at Bailey? I think we used to have. So can that be cycled for that large of a cooling unit?
It can, and to me, the cost of the coolant is small time. I'm concerned now with the chemistry to find out exactly what the root cause is of these failures. That I don't have the new units back. I have to do some research, and we're on it.
Yeah.
The other thing too that you may not know, yesterday we lost. We stuck a valve in Unit 2, or Bag 2, and so now I'm seeing another unit have this. I don't know if we're following the same failure scenario or not. Again, we had spare parts on hand, like you had just indicated. The guys got on it right away. We almost got it finished last night. We wore everybody out. It was hot with the other diesels running. We came back to it first thing this morning, finished it. By 10 o'clock, we got that unit back on.
So which one did we rebuild with the cooperation of the shipyard?
Unit 2.
Unit 2.
Electrically. It had a bad generator.
It was electric.
Right, and that was, about 9 years ago, I think. 10 years ago.
What's the life expectancy of these diesels, Andy?
Well, okay, so we've seen 20 years. I think with proper maintenance, we probably should go 40 years or more. Parts, I don't know. At Wardzilla, they make these things for the big ships. Now, that was the other problem that we have is there's not really a third-party manufacturer. It's not like you can go to Napa for these things, right? So you're looking at Wardzilla proper throughout the rest of the world, still making parts and pieces for these engines.
So are there, I guess you will probably try to find some way to mitigate it if we have a fuel issue. Is there additives or something we could use to?
They derate the machines, and I think the other phenomenon I wanted to see if I could find some information is on the chemistry of the cooling media, see if that's a cause, and then the metallurgy of the valve train. Right, I talked about these FEGTs, fugitive exhaust gas temperatures. I just want to make sure that we're not looking at a late detonation phenomena.
Okay. And I probably know a little bit, but in your memo, you talked about the low water level at Swan Lake and being forced to augment the power through the generation, and I can understand some of that in order to try to keep the head up and different things like that. But how much water did we have left in Swan Lake when we decided to start up? How many days? Any idea?
Well, when you say days, so based on temperature,
yeah.
We took it down to the point where we're probably looking at less than 2 weeks.
Weeks of reservoir left.
Right, depending upon a whole bunch of other things, but yeah.
Okay.
Right, and so when we're looking, we're thinking about if things got really bad, and we're looking at the final week. That's pretty critical in terms of level.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at other contingencies. Working again with SEPA, they had formulated a guide curve in which they wanted to take the lake down to a specific level, in lieu of the fact that when the melt comes, et cetera, then you get better use of the entire lake volume. So trying to work that equation out with where we're at, with available generation from Tyee, what we had available in our own ponds, we're still trying to stay alive.
Yeah, and I was wondering what we had available was from Tyee. So
yeah, we've hit 2 low records so far. Right now we're at another low record in terms of level in Swan. We never had the level of Swan Lake that low before.
Okay. And so you're still you were saying there was an engineered guide curve or the low water draw on that. What can you draft it to? How many feet?
271.5 is the lowest you can draft to. That's where the intake is.
Well, we wouldn't do that.
And we're 276.4 right now, maybe in rising.
Okay.
So we're awfully close. We got 5 feet in there.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else for a call of roll? Dick?
Yeah, I would like to pursue what Bob's up to, because I get the impression from somewhere there was enough water in those 2 lakes, that Tyee and Swan, that we didn't have to really run those diesels yet. But I'm not going to get into that tonight. The other one is another sentence in here says that SEPA announced their window for annual line outage as May 30, June 8. Was there any opportunity to work with them to back it off a week or 2 weeks until? I mean, we got to work together on this, because we burning diesel costs me money and the public money. I don't want to get into it tonight, but we need some information and some backup, because I'm not satisfied.
Well, what would you like to do?
Mr. Mayor, if I could interject here, this is no surprise to anybody that KPU takes a more conservative approach than SEPA would like relative to a minimum reservoir level at Swan. And I've been in discussion with Mr. Atkinson about that relative to the Whitman True-Up Agreement. Those discussions are ongoing. If this council wants to give direction this evening to say Swan Lake is a SEPA asset, which I acknowledge, and you want us to follow the direction of SEPA relative to drawing down that reservoir level, and that's the direction you want to give to us, I'll be glad to do that. No questions asked. And we'll let SEPA exclusively dictate the reservoir level.
Well,
I'm prepared to do that.
And I appreciate that, Carl.
Just the council give the direction, and we'll do that.
Yeah, and again, I think it's the information that we need to make sure that we're both cooperating. We all have the same goal here, and it's to keep the lights on and do it in the best fashion that we can, and to the betterment of the community. I mean, I get that.
I don't disagree.
No, I'm not looking for an argument.
No, and I want to make sure that Mr. Coos didn't misunderstand this. The fact that there's a placeholder out there in time, and I gave the dates, is all the more encouragement we want to get our diesel fleet back up and running well, so that we can accomplish that. That was the purpose of that. Now, if for some reason that we can't, well, certainly I would ask our friends at SEPA if we couldn't defer or delay some of that work, right? And I'd like to know sooner than later.
Well, so it sounds like it's time to start talking. Too. And that's what I was after. I would suspect or hope that they'd be willing to back that off a week or two if we had needed that much time to get a machine so that it's back in order. And that's all I was after on that one.
Exactly. And we've had that conversation. So now my hope is that we get these cylinder heads here within the next 2 weeks. We can get them bolted on in several days, and we won't have to bump that schedule. Because those schedules are hard to put together, right? There's lots of other contractors involved in the making. And so to just arbitrarily say, no, we're not going to make that, and then find out that we can. So I just soon see if the next 2 weeks we can pull this off, we'll be out of the woods. My hope.
Anything else?
Yeah, and the bigger concern here is, do we have enough resources? We're talking about trying to grow our economy. We have the potential for a rare earth separating facility. I don't know what that's going to take, and we want other things to come. Are we going to, at some point, need more diesel? Or, I mean, I don't know what the answer is to that, but I'd like to know, at least in a 5-year and 10-year plan, if that's something that we got to start looking for funding for.
I think we do.
Yeah.
Another bag 4, right? Now, every time, forgive me for my comments, but folks that come into town that offer natural gas, that type of distribution, right? We always talk about a bag 5 that would run on natural gas. And it's always included in, they try to aggregate, those folks that come in with that, they try to aggregate all the services possible to get the highest use of natural gas, conversion of the ferries, conversion of the schools with heat, etc. If we had a bag 5 that ran natural gas, and then get that all up, and then see if there's an economy of scale that would fit in the city here to distribute that. So yeah, every time that conversation comes up, the bag 5 natural gas unit comes into play. The only problem is right now it'd have to be built right next to the source tank. Otherwise, transferring the ISO containers back and forth, you'd have to hire 4 more people to handle that. These are big engines. They use a lot of fuel. So I hope I've answered your question, and I didn't want to frustrate you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Let's get back to the question. Call the roll.
Goose.
Yes.
Severson.
Yes.
Flora.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Gage.
Yes.
Sini.
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Managers report. Carl.
Want to do vouchers, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, sorry.
You want to get paid?
Yeah. $1,060.34 for the Daily News. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the vouchers.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Call the roll. I'm getting tired.
Severson.
Yes.
Coos.
Yes.
Sini.
Yes.
Gage.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Flora.
Yeah.
All right. That passes 6-0. Now managers report.
Mr. Mayor, I have several. In the packet tonight was included a copy of the minutes from the last Cooperative Relations Committee. Although it was only briefly referenced in the minutes, there was extensive conversation on the subject of the homeless in the downtown area, which will be the subject of a future Cooperative Relations Committee meeting later this spring. I just want the council to be aware that there is a perspective by some on the committee that the community needs to be thinking about relocating homeless services out of the downtown to other parts of the community. I think that discussion is going to be both problematic and a challenge. I'm not recommending any outcome at this point, one way or the other, but I don't think it's going to be an easy discussion for the community to have. And I just want to make sure the council is aware that that discussion seems to be underway. Last week, SCI, the firm the council retained to do The review of the fire department apparatus was in town. They were here for 3 days. And did the inspection of the equipment. We will be receiving that report hopefully in the next several weeks. I would note also the report, Dennis Spurgeon, our garage supervisor, has given us his notification of retirement. Dennis has worked for a number of years and has done a really good job down at the garage, and he will be missed. And lastly, I have 3 candidates coming in next week for assistant manager interviews, and we will keep you posted on that. And that's all I've got.
Okay, Moffett and Nichols are going to come next meeting?
Correct. They will be presenting the upland study relative to the discussion of reconfiguring the burst. Also at that meeting, as I noted in the KPU manager's report, Mr. Actison will be giving an update on SEPA activities and initiatives.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions on the manager's report?
Yeah, Lou, question. The Moffett Nichols does not have any more public meetings scheduled on
Correct.
Uplands, do they? Okay.
This will be their final presentation.
Okay. Bob?
Carl, in the past, you guys have generated an employee report in regards to how long our employees have been with us and the potential for how many we're going to lose over the next, I don't know what period of time it was in that report, but it was a pretty good report at one time, so we could, replacement of employees is tough. You got people with years and years of experience, and to go out and find somebody that fits a catch can, you guys have a tough job doing that.
We did that as part of the matrix report that the council asked for, and we can regenerate that if
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that is, because I know we have an aging workforce and what we're going to be looking at in the future. Because there's always been that question whether our pay scale will attract the individuals that we need to run our facilities. Thank you.
All right. That brings us down to city clerk's file,
Nothing.
city attorney's file,
Nothing, Your Honor.
future agenda items.
Your Honor,
Yes.
also at the last Cooperative Relations Committee, it was suggested we come back one more time to talk about a raise in the sales tax cap. It was my impression after meeting with Cooperative Relations, there wasn't much interest in approaching it by change of exempting a class of goods or a seasonal thing. But it was determined that maybe we should look at raising the cap to $1,500 one last time and then take it back to Cooperative Relations and be done with it.
Should we make that a Carl?
I can provide a quick update on that. I did a council report for the meeting of the 19th on that today. At the Borough Assembly meeting on Monday, they kicked the issue around, decided that they needed to hold a work session. One of the things that Cooperative Relations asked for was for the Borough Finance Director to show the impacts of either including the additional 500, having it apply to residential rents, or having it excluded from residential rents. Borough Manager Duran is going to recommend that the Assembly hold a work session on that issue at its meeting of June 4th. So there's nothing going to be forthcoming from the Borough Finance Director until that work session. So I'm going to hold off bringing anything back to the council until I have that information.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. All right, that brings us down to council member comments. Dick?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Judy?
Thank you, fellow council members, for helping me work through that motion.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jenny?
Thanks, Judy, for bringing it up.
Julie?
Just a reminder that this is tomorrow night, and for anyone who hasn't been to it, show up and see how much of the community does support our arts. And a lot of the community does.
Bob?
Yes, Your Honor. I had the opportunity to show a couple of gentlemen around town for a couple of days, and we met with a number of different organizations and individuals. And through that, it continues to amaze me about how much Ketchikan has to offer and how much we do. It's an amazing place, and from their comments, and they've been in quite a few different places in Alaska, Ketchikan does a lot of things right. So I'd just like to thank everybody that sits at this table, because these decisions aren't always easy, but it just continues to amaze me. And the other thing that I'd like to say is I had a very close friend pass away, and it's very difficult. And so I just encourage everybody to tell their loved ones how much they love them, give them a hug.
Anything else, Bob?
No.
Mark?
The Kaneama Kids game, again, longest running Japanese-American exchange program in the nation, near and dear to my heart. Haven't been active in it for a few years. I was fortunate enough to go in 2007 on the 20-year trip. It's an extraordinary program. I hope it continues to perpetuate and to agree with Council Member Sievertson. It's something this town does right. The community is still behind it, and I'm just very grateful to have been a part of it at one time.
Excellent. I don't have much. Somebody might know I went down and got checked. They told me I didn't have any cancer on my lungs. Now they tell me I do. So it's back to chemo starting Tuesday. But everything else is all clear. So, there's always a good part. We have 2 executive sessions. Carl is the second, the KPU one. Well, they're all here. Do we have a motion for the first one?
Your Honor.
Yeah.
I move the City Council declare that, consistent with the City Manager's report dated March 16, 2018, it is in the best interest for the City Council to discuss negotiations of lease between the City and Peace House related to the renewal of the hospital lease in executive session in accordance with the Ketchikan Municipal Code 2.04.025A1 and A3, which includes the need to discuss subjects and knowledge of which could have an immediate adverse impact on the finances of the city, and to receive legal advice within the attorney-client privilege.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Sievertson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Flora?
Okay, let's adjourn from here and hit another room.
Okay, we're back in session. We've given the manager direction. That brings us down to item 15B, Ketchikan Public Utilities request for executive session to discuss strategies, competitive aspects of the Ketchikan Public Utilities Telecommunication Division marketing plan. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
I move the City Council declare that, consistent with the General Manager's report dated March 16, 2018, it is in the best interest of the city to discuss strategic competitive aspects of the Ketchikan Public Utilities Telecommunications Division marketing plan in accordance with Ketchikan Municipal Code 2.04.025A1 in order to discuss subjects the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the city.
Very good. Have a second? Second. Okay, moved in second. Call the roll, please.
Okay. Flora?
Yes.
Kiefer? Oh, sorry. Isom?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Sievertson?
Yes. So we'll recess into executive session. Back on?
Yep.
So we concluded the executive session. We're back in session. That leaves us with adjournment. We stand adjourned. Charlie, got anything?
Yeah, I was going to ask you to come upstairs.
You know, we should all go out with an affirmation.